Recording. So I am Robin Hamilton, and I am your instructor tonight for Gardner Webb's MELS 601 add-on course, and this is September 3rd, 2019, and this is our second official class. You've had town hall meetings and coaching sessions, but this is our second class. If you have any questions, please, as this process goes on, feel free to email us, call us. We have shared our contact with you, so please feel free to do that. We are communicating with you through our Gardner Webb account, through your Gardner Webb account. So make sure that you are checking into your Gardner Webb account, your email account. We use Blackboard to email everyone. So if you're not getting those emails, let us know so we can check into that. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And this may take just an extra second for me to do it this way, but I think that it's important that I go through where we're finding things in Blackboard so that that'll help you know where to look. So when you go into our Blackboard course, the first thing that we're going to look at, I need to move the pictures over a little. The first thing that we're going to look at is our Zoom session links. So remember that over on the left, we have our weekly Zoom schedule, and you can find that weekly Zoom schedule there, and that will show you each week. It has the same links. We have the same links each week, and you can see the links there. And so this is tonight, and we're going to talk about the Professional Learning Community, Task 1 of the ABSL. And this is September 3rd, and then you do have a coaching session this Thursday night, September 5th at 7 o'clock. And Dr. Lamb and Dr. Stedman are going to talk about dispositions, competencies, peer reviews, Zoom, Blackboard, Blackboard discussions, TaskStream, and APA, and Turnitin. So those are the things that you'll be talking about there, and that again is in your Zoom. These pictures are right in the way. In your Zoom weekly class schedule. So this is week 2. So when you go down to week 2 in Blackboard, you'll see that we are here in week 2. I need to move these pictures another way. Here we go. So you'll see that we're in week 2, and so this week we're going to talk about disposition competencies, peer reviewing Zoom, TaskStream, a little workshop on APA. We're going to have a little workshop on APA style tonight, and we were to have read Ubin chapter 3 tonight, and then also here's a link for you on the North Carolina Public Schools Department of Public Instruction website, where you can learn more about PLCs right there, since you are doing research on PLCs. So this week, ABSL Task 1, this Sunday night at 9 o'clock, will be due in the discussion board. Anything that is in red are things that you have to do. And then this once again encourages you to set up a Zoom account if you haven't already. And so this in red is what is due on September the 8th. And I do want to go back for just a second to week 1, last week, and show you that I do have a link right here. This is now a hotspot link that has the recording. Besides emailing it to you, here's a recording from session 1 last week, and then here's a recording from your coaching session from last week as well, and I did not mean to click on that. So that is there for you as well. So we'll email you our links and our recordings, and then after tonight, when I get it uploaded, if I am able to again get it to link to this weekly Zoom session 1 for this week, I will. If not, I'll do another attachment below. So that's what we'll be doing tonight and what we'll be discussing, and all this is outlined for you week by week. So the readings that you're assigned, such as this week, Ubin chapter 3, are designed to support the work that you are doing right now in your ABSL. And you can use those readings as your references if you want to. So for example, tonight in Ubin chapter 3, of the principal, Creative Leadership for Excellence in Schools. That was about decision making. And when you're creating your PLCs, you're deciding who's going to be in your PLC, you're deciding what your problem that you're going to work on to improve student learning. That all takes decision making. It covers factors to consider when determining information needed for decision making, selecting those right people, consideration of options, and how the decision will look when that decision is implemented. It discusses those leadership qualities that are important for decision making, such as the leader assuming responsibility and taking responsibility, the leader being actively present and engaged in the work that's going on, at walking the walk, not just talking the talk. I think we've probably all had administrators at some point that require us to do professional development and they don't even come. And in my opinion, that's one of the worst things as leaders. You're not really being a leader that you can do. You need to be there. You need to be actively engaged, present with them. This is just an invaluable resource for you during this process of understanding PLCs, creating PLCs, and for determining those pressing academic needs that you're going to be determining through your app cell so that you can help improve student learning in your school. So remember that what we see in red here is what is due this Sunday night by no later than 9 o'clock, and that's going to be your Task 1 draft due in Blackboard's discussion board, and that's going to be this Sunday night for you. And we'll go over that process and exactly how you're going to do that. So first, I want us to look at the APSL template and materials in Blackboard. So back to Blackboard, and you will come down to APSL template and materials on the left. And then there are lots of things in here under APSL template and materials for your review. There, you might even find some of these things in more than one place, and that is just to make it easy for you to be able to find it. So the APSL Final Evidence Narrative template is what you're going to use to move forward. So I'm going to open that up for you. So last week, Dr. Lamb talked about there being 6 evidence artifacts that you're going to complete over the course of this program. And at the end of your year-long journey, you're going to take all 6 of those together and you're going to put them together into one comprehensive school improvement document. So the first component of that school improvement document that you'll have completed at the end of this year that you're working on right now is the APSL, and that's the Analysis and Action Plan for Student Learning. And as Dr. Lamb mentioned last week, this is not just an exercise for a graduate program. In North Carolina General Statute 115C 228, one of the duties and responsibilities of the principal is to develop an instructional plan for school improvement. And so this is a major function of the job as principal. So this template that Dr. Lamb and Dr. Stebbin have provided for you is going to help guide you successfully through this process of creating your APSL, this first part of your overall school improvement plan. So on this first page, what you're going to do, you're going to leave everything that's in black, you leave it. You don't take that out. Now this is one exception. Right here it says your name here. So you're going to take out that says your name here and you're going to put your name right there. You're going to leave, you're going to leave this right here that says purpose, leave that. That's fine. Anything that you see in yellow, that means that you're going to add text there. When you see yellow, that means I have to do something. So you have to write something in that yellow area. Once you've completed that and you've written what that is, then you can go back and take the yellow highlights out. Like you wouldn't leave highlighted areas, add your text. You would take that out and take out the yellow. And anytime you see yellow, that means you have to do something, you have to write something. When you see something that's in red, that means this is a reminder that something is required. So in this case, it says red text is a reminder and should be deleted before you add the text. And then anything that you see in there that's in black, that stays. So these color-coded directions are consistent throughout the whole APSL process to make it easier for you. So the first thing that you're going to do is your school profile. So right here, it's going to say Task 1, Description. When you get ready to do this school profile, before we get to Task 1, Description, that's blank. So this is where you're going to put your narrative of your school profile. And we talked a little about that Thursday night. And once you get your school profile done, you'll go back and you'll take that yellow highlight off, but you're going to leave that black text because you still want that title of school profile right there. So you're going to say school profile, you're going to go down a space or two spaces, and you're going to write about your school profile. So just to sort of reiterate what we talked about last Thursday, the school profile is where you tell about your school. Just like in 2 or 3 pages at the most, it's just a story about your school. What does your school look like? What's the history of your school? You may be an older historic school with a rich history around your school. Think about that history of your school. Sometimes these histories are the reasons that your school is the way it is. So a history can be a big part of your school's culture. So you might have that situation at your school and you may not, and that's okay. But this is the information that you need to know and that we're going to need to know as we move forward, as we're looking at this comprehensive school improvement plan that you're going to be putting together. So it all begins with your school profile. And again, you're just telling the story about your school, your community. What does your school look like on the inside? What does your school look like on the outside? What does your student population look like? What does your parent volunteerism look like? What's the makeup of your community? What are the values of your community? What are the values of your school? What is embedded within your school that the people in your community and your building value? Just like I said, just 2 or so pages, just a mini history of your school. So once you have done that mini history of your school, you're going to move on in to your APSL Task 1. And that's what you've been working on is your APSL Task 1. So this says APSL Task 1, Description. That is all in black. You are going to leave all that in there. So you leave that right there and don't take that out. So this is what we emphasized last week. You're going to be responsible for submitting your APSL Task 1 into your discussion board no later than this Sunday night at 9 o'clock. So when you're writing in here, you're going to say, when you're writing, it's going to be always, and we'll talk a little about this a little more when we talk about APA shortly. But when you're writing, you're always going to call yourself the candidate. So you're not going to be in first person. You're going to be in third person passive. So you are the candidate. And so you won't say things like I, me, you won't us, you won't say that. And then refer to your PLC as the PLC. So keep it professional, third person passive. Avoid personalizing your writing by saying I did this, I did that, or I'm going to do this. So first of all, we're going to hear our instructions for Task 1 of the APSL. So it says in a narrative form and using APA guidelines, the candidate will describe the process of researching and developing the structure for a PLC. And you all have been working on that research right now. So in a narrative form. So you're going to write about that in a narrative form. It needs to be supported by summarizing and citing sources used to validate decisions concerning the PLC format. So in prompt 1, this is task 1 instructions, task 1, prompt 1, and task 1 only has one prompt. It says the candidate with the approval of school leadership. So remember that candidate with the approval of school leadership means you had to get approval from your principal, will research the tenets and functions of a professional learning community while assuming a leadership role in developing and organizing a PLC. So there are 3 parts to this prompt 1 that you're going to do, and they are in yellow highlight, and the red are the instructions. So on PLC research, you're going to start right there with PLC research, and this is the part that you're going to be turning in. This prompt 1 is what you're going to be turning in Sunday night at 9 o'clock. So the first thing you're going to do is submit your PLC research. Your PLC research must have at least 3 sources, and one of those sources has to be by Richard DeFore. In the text citations, you have to have your sources cited in text citations, and then you'll have your reference list at the end. We would always recommend about 5 sources if you have that. 3 is all that is basically required. 5 just makes it a little more solid. So what you'll do is you'll do your PLC research right here with at least 3 sources, one being Richard DeFore, and you're going to come down 2 lines and you're going to type that right in here. So you're going to delete the red, and then you're going to take out the yellow highlight, and then it's just going to be left PLC research, and then you'll delete the red and go down. You may even want to save this in a separate file so that you always have the instructions, so that when you get on your working copy, when you delete that, if you go back and have any questions or want to review anything, you haven't lost your original copy of this. So I would suggest downloading this as like the file that you're not going to mess with, and then download it again on your working copy, because you will be deleting the red, you will be deleting the yellow highlighting, so that way you'll always have something to go back and look at for further reference, future reference. And remembering that your PLC research has to be in APA format. We're going to talk about that shortly. And your PLC research should conclude with a complete description of the candidates in your PLC design as well. So when you're talking about that PLC research, because you're going to have read about choosing candidates for your PLC, then you want to conclude that research with a description of the candidates that you've chosen. So why did you choose them? What common interests did they have? What qualifications did they have that make them good contributing members of your PLC? So add that in there as well. And then you have your PLC selection right here. And this is, what was your criteria for selecting them? What were the strengths of those team members that you chose? This means you're going to identify about 3 to 5 people who's going to be on your team. It's going to help you move forward with this process. You're going to want to choose people who you can depend on, who's going to have a positive attitude and a positive mindset towards improving student learning in your building and toward helping with this overall school improvement process. You don't want people who are going to complain, who aren't going to come to your meetings and that kind of thing. So don't even ask those kinds of people to help. You have the opportunity right now to select good, strong professionals who are going to actively engage in working with you and moving forward with this school improvement process in your building. So choose people with a positive mindset that you know you can depend on, professional people who are going to help you move forward. So what are the criteria? Tell what those strengths are. And you're going to put this part in narrative format as well. So you'll take out the yellow highlighting, you'll take out the red part, you'll come down 2 lines, and you'll put in narrative format right there. This is who I picked, this is why I picked them, these are their qualifications. You're going to tell this narratively, so like in a story, what distinguishes these people that you've chosen to be good candidates for your PLC. Are they nationally board certified? Do they have master's degree? Are they the chair of your school improvement team? Tell all that narratively. We want to know what qualifications you used for your selection process and why these folks are good for your PLC. And then the third thing that'll go into the test that you'll be submitting this Sunday night before 9 o'clock is your actual PLC meeting that you need to hold this week if you haven't already held it. And again, you're going to delete this red part. Those are your instructions. It says the candidate leads the PLC and the meeting discussed the PLC's vision and purpose. You're going to take out the yellow highlighting, and you're going to have PLC meeting, go down 2 lines. And then once again, you're going to have another narrative. So you're going to actually hold a PLC, the candidate, again, that is you, that's the way you're going to write. You're going to lead that PLC in a meeting to discuss the PLC's vision and the purpose. You'll tell them, this is what we're going to do in this PLC, and this is why we're going to do it. And during this time, you're going to establish your group norms. You're going to talk about when you're going to be meeting every week and like how things are going to be handled in the meetings that you're going to be having. This would be a great time to appoint someone like to be the secretary, to take the notes, to document those notes. How are you going to save those notes? How are you going to share those notes? This would be a great time for you to set the parameters and establish the guidelines of how your PLC meetings are going to look as you go through this whole school improvement process. through your APSL and APTEL and the other 4 evidences that you're going to create throughout your year-long journey. So for every prompt and task, so here's your prompt right here. For every task and prompt, I should say, task 1, prompt 1, you're going to have, if applicable, and in this case, this week, it is applicable, when you finish, to have your reference section. So you're going to have your references listed in APA format at the end of the research that you have cited in your document that you are turning in this Sunday night. So that reference section needs to be in APA format and style and have at least 3 references, remember, in that reference section, and anything else that was cited in your paper, in your research and selection process. So anything that you've included has to have the reference at the bottom. Then the last section that you're going to have is always your appendices. Your appendices is where you put your artifacts. Remember, you had to reach out to your administration about forming a PLC. You had to say, I'm a student at Gardner-Webb. I am going to create a PLC. I'm asking your permission to conduct this PLC and to select a committee. So like in that email communication, that is something that go in your appendices as an artifact where you got permission to conduct a PLC in your school. Another artifact that you could include under prompt 1, task 1 is your PLC meeting. You're going to have an agenda. So there could be an agenda as an artifact of your PLC meeting to show, hey, I did this and this is where I did it. You could also have minutes from that meeting that could go in as an artifact in your appendices. I would encourage you to have someone take a picture of you leading your PLC. That could also go in as an artifact that you could add to provide evidence that this did occur. You don't need a lot of pictures like this, but certainly a picture of you leading your PLC in your appendices is a good idea. This also, when DPI reviews all your work at the end of your program, this lets them know when they look at these that you really were indeed doing this, you really did select a committee, this was your process, and here is an artifact evidence that you held these meetings. Your PLCs could also be taped and recorded and uploaded if you make a YouTube video channel and upload those in there as well as an artifact in your appendices. And appendices always come last. That's the very last thing that you're going to have. So in task 1, prompt 1, you're going to have these 3 things right here, your research, your selection, and then your meeting. You're going to have a reference section at the end, and then you're going to also have an appendices, and the appendices being the very last thing that you're going to do. In task 2, which comes next, we sort of work on these things on a rolling schedule here. On task 2, you're also going to have a reference and appendices, and we'll talk about that a little more in a few minutes. And at the end of this journey, as I said earlier, you will merge all these references and appendices into one. So when you finish your APSL, you'll take all your references and you will roll those into one document. You'll take all your appendices and put that in one rolling document at the end. Right now, they'll be separate, but at the end, you'll merge it before you complete your APSL completely into one at the end. So those will all be combined before you turn that in for your final evaluation. So once again, task 1, prompt 1 is due this Sunday night, no later than 9 o'clock. Here are the 3 parts you'll take out. You need to do your school profile, that's first, and then you'll do these 3 parts for task 1, prompt 1. You'll unhighlight the yellow, come down, write your narratives for each of those, take the red out. Those are simply your instructions. Again, I would suggest that you save this document separately so that you don't lose your instructions, and then you'll have your working copy that you'll work on. So right now, let's move on to task 2 for just a minute, and then we're going to go back and look at a few more things. Well, let me stop before we move on to task 2, and let me see if we have any chats I need to look at. Let me go back. Yeah, 6 people is fine, Crystal. That will be just fine. Just when you go to them to talk to them about being a part of this PLC, go to them with the understanding of the research that you've done about a PLC and with your excitement about how you're excited about working with them to find something that you all can work together to do to improve student learning in your school. Don't make it sound like, oh, just please help me get through this for my graduate work, but really try to pump them up and get them excited about it, and hopefully they'll all be willing and excited about it so that you really can do some valuable work with that. We'll say what you're going to do, Laura, we're going to only work on task 1 this week, and you're only putting it in for review right now. So we'll look at that in just a couple of minutes, but you're only going to do that for review, and we'll look at that. You're not going to turn in the whole document until we're finished with that. So that's several weeks down the road. So starting this week, it's just for review right now, and you'll see that in a few minutes when we go look at that. Let's see, if you're getting feedback on the Zoom session, if everyone would, you're welcome. If everyone would mute yourselves, except for me. Sometimes if everyone else is muted, that helps. And you may be muted, I don't hear anyone else. Your PLC is scheduled for Thursday and school is canceled. Oh yes, Tony, same for us the rest of the week. Yes, Tony, just right in there for right now. School is canceled, could not hold my PLC. We'll hold it the day we return, and that's all we can do for right now, Tony. I'm in the same boat you're in. So, yes, that's perfect. Yes, no worries at all. Okay, so if we can just move to task 2 for just a second, because I do want to go ahead and get you thinking about task 2. So right here in the description for task 2, it says the candidate will research all available data to determine the most pressing learning need. Once the need has been collected and converted to presentation form, the candidate will lead a PLC in isolating key data and creating selecting visual graphics that effectively represent the need. So when you're developing task 1, I want you to go ahead and think about task 2, which is why we're going to go ahead and talk about task 2 now. So let's move on down to the prompt or the instructions for task 2. The instructions for task 2 say, in narrative form, describe the data collection and presentation process central to the PLC's effort to identify the most pressing need that will later be the focus of an action plan to eliminate the need, which is what you're going to be worried about in task 3. Candidates are encouraged to describe the process from the perspective of a leader, communication, delegation of responsibilities, and rationale behind collaborative decisions. So in task 2, prompt 1, you will see 4 areas that you have to fill in, and you'll also notice that task 2 has 2 prompts, prompt 1, prompt 2. So there are several things in prompt 1. The candidates are going to describe and evidence data collection strategies and criteria and the process of identifying the most pressing need. The candidate will lead a collaborative meeting where data is analyzed and discussed, concluding with agreement and a specific need. And videoing, it says it's optional, and I do think that it is recommended to video this actual meeting. So you sort of make a checklist to make sure that you get everything that's delineated in these instructions. So in narrative form, so anytime it says in narrative form, that means you are going to, back up here, so make a little checklist. In narrative form, that means I have to write something. It's a narrative, it's a story, I have to write something. You're going to describe the data collection and the presentation process central to your PLC's effort to identify your most pressing need. So you're thinking about, how are we going to collect this data? How did we identify what our most pressing need was? You and your PLC will have to discuss these things, but here is where you will write about it. You have to go about the data you have to go about the collection and the data collection and how you're going to present that. So the part that says that will later focus on the action plan, that again is what we'll be working out in task 3. So that's why I want you to sort of be thinking ahead, because this is where we're heading. So you're encouraged in here to think about this as a leader. So this is where you need to really take off that teacher hat and put on that leader hat. You got to start thinking more like a principal, and that's really, really hard to do. From this point on, my charge to you is to look at things through this different lens. Put on that principal hat. Try to look at things from now on through a different perspective, not from the teacher perspective, but from the leadership perspective. In my school, we have guiding principles, and one of our guiding principles is to be a forest person, not a tree person, because it's not about us in our room. It's not about me as the principal. It's not even about my school oftentimes. Oftentimes, it's about the system as a whole. So be a forest person, not a tree person. So, and that sometimes is hard to do, but the more you read, the more you learn, and the more you study, the more you will understand the whys behind things that occur that sometimes are just not understood when you just don't have as much information to work with. The leader process can be very, very lonely. As you move in this process, the people you currently work with may start looking at you differently. They may even say to you, boy, you've changed. Well, yes, you are going to change in this process, and you have to change. And that's just the way it is to be in this building, this business. When I was a teacher at the middle school, our principal got moved to an elementary school, and she took the custodian and me with her. And that was the year I started my master's degree in school administration. And I very quickly began noticing that people that used to would have talked to me about things or whatever didn't do that anymore, because they felt two things. They felt, well, I was the one that she picked to take with her. Okay, that was that. And then I was working closely with my principal because of the program that I was in at Gardner Webb, getting my master's in school administration. And so, you do start thinking differently. And so that means that sometimes you're thinking differently than the people that you used to think more like. And so that, it can be lonely, but just expect it and know it. And sometimes you're now understanding the whys, and that's just a part of it. So, and that's okay. Just do what you know is the right thing to do and move on, and that's okay. Because you will be seeing things differently. You will be seeing things through a bigger, broader perspective. So we're in task 2, which is not due this Sunday. And prompt 1 under task 2, which we just read, that you're going to describe and evidence data collection strategies and criteria and the process of identifying the most pressing needs. So you have 4 things in yellow. So these are the things that you're going to do. You're going to talk about your data collection strategies. So you're going to take out the yellow highlight and leave that, data collection strategies. And we should see all the narrative work based on you and your committee about how you and your committee have collected data, the strategies you use to identify those most pressing needs at your school. Those data collection strategies could be EOGs, they could be EBOS, they could be benchmark tests. Anything that you can put on the table that you can pull information from would be discussed in that section. And then the second section is criteria and processes for identifying the most pressing needs. So this again is yellow, so this means you're going to write something. And this is going to be a committee decision, what the most pressing need is. So you all are going to have to look at that data. You're going to have to look at multiple pieces of data. And then you'll decide what the most pressing need is from there. Then the next part that you'll write about under task 2, prompt 1, is a collaborative data analysis. And collaborative, of course, means you are working with your team. That is collaborative. You are not making this decision on your own. This is the data that you're analyzing to determine your need. And then the last thing that you'll do for prompt 1 under task 2 is, once your team has decided on that most pressing need, you're going to write about that. Here's where you're going to identify that most pressing need based on the consensus of your PLC. This is where you're going to move forward with trying to make a difference in student learning in your school. This is what you're going to discuss with your administrator right here to make sure that they're on board with this, because your administrator probably already knows what the most pressing needs are in the school. And there are so many pressing needs in a school, there's no way an administrator can take care of all of them. So it may be that your administrator is taking care of the ones that they feel like they absolutely have to take care of mostly, but then they are just thrilled that you're coming in to take care of something else that they really would like to work on, but they just can't get it all done. So just make sure that you have the support of your administrator and that what you and your PLC deem a pressing need based on data and data analysis is also something that your administrator sees as a pressing need. I think if you take your data collection and your analysis with you as supporting evidence, especially if you think your administrator is not going to agree, that would make for a good argument as well. So for task 2, prompt 1, those are the 4 things right there that you are going to write about. Right there. And then task 2, prompt 2, there's right here, you'll just write about, again in yellow, so that means you're going to write something. In prompt 2, you're going to show it. So this is data presentation. Notice that the prompt doesn't say data. Prompt 2 says data is graphically represented in the narrative forms of charts, tables, graphs. These visuals are used to illustrate and support the data analysis and conclusions. It doesn't say a chart, a graph, a table. It says charts, graphs, tables. That's plural. So you're going to be looking at multiple data sources. We see lots of things under prompt 2. So these data presentations, this is where you're going to put your charts and your tables and your graphs. And we'll talk about this for APA as well. And you're going to show us your data. You'll have a brief narrative that represents the data in the figures according to APA. So with this section, you're also going to have a reference section as applicable, and you'll have appendices that you'll be adding as well. So what I want us to do is go back right now to the ABSL template and materials right here, back in Blackboard. And I want you to see this Dr. Stedman, and I emailed this to you the other day as well. He created this ABSL helpful hints document. And this right here will also take you through every single thing. So there's task 1, which is due this Sunday night, which we've talked about, your PLC meeting, your references, your appendices. He makes a reminder that all graphics are used to be identified as figures shown according to APA. And then here again talks about task 2, which you're going to be working on next, that we just went over, and he has laid all that out for you right there as well to make that easier for you. So that's just one more resource right there under your template and materials that you can go to. And then another one in the very same place, ABSL template and materials. We're going to scroll down right here, and here's an example of an ABSL. So this is an example of someone's ABSL, and this is, I think Dr. Lamb said the other day, this will be passing. Now you most certainly, this is like the minimal example, but you'll see how they have task 1, that they put their name on the first page. Then they have task 1, they left the directions in there. They have given their school profile, so that's what you'll be doing before Sunday night as well. And then, whoops, I just skipped over the introduction. And then here's their PLC research. So here's where they had a minimum of 3 sources, and they wrote about their PLC research right here. And that's all right there. So that's the first part. Now this is a completed ABSL, so their references and everything have gone to the bottom at this point. Here is a description of their PLC selection process. And then the PLC meeting, that first meeting where they are setting the boundaries and rules of meeting, etc. right there. So that, then of course, underneath there you'll have your references, and you will have your any appendices at this time that you have And then that is that for what you'll have for this Sunday night. So that's just a basic example of how that's going to look. And I really think it helps to look at that just so that you have an overview of what that's going to look like. So that's task 1 and task 2 of the ABSOL. So now let's look at our peer review materials. So first of all, before we do that, let's look at our Zoom teams, because your Zoom teams, that's who you'll be working with. So here are your Zoom teams. And I had 5, 5, and 4. We have lost, I think we have lost Sharon. Well, she must have come in and gone. I don't even see it on here. So that's okay. I think we've lost Sean Evans. So that still leaves 3 people in that team, so that's fine. So those are the folks you'll be working with on your peer reviews and things of that nature. So we're going to look at our peer review materials right here. So peer review materials right here. So in addition to turning in your work, you're going to be reviewing each other's materials. So here is the process, and here is the template for peer reviews. So when you do a peer review, you will fill out this template right here. You will fill that out. You will upload it in a Word document or a PDF, because that's all Blackboard will take. And then I'm going to show you where you're going to put that. So by this Sunday, you're turning in your task one of your ABSOL. By the following Sunday, you'll be turning in peer reviews plus your task 2. If you did not see your name on a Zoom team, I need to go back and just review that one more time. If you don't see your name on a Zoom team, I'm going to need to know that to make sure you're on there. I feel like you're all on there, but I just want to make sure that if your name's not on a Zoom team, please, please, please let me know. So the peer review template, we just looked at that. That's under peer review materials. You'll take that, and that's what you're going to write on to review your peers' work. You're going to do a review of your peer work, and you will get a grade on your peer review template work. So one of your assignments for next week is to look at the ABSOL task 1. Now this is next week, not by this Sunday. This is by the following Sunday. You'll look at 2 of your colleagues in your Zoom team at their ABSOL task 1, and you're going to answer the questions on that template that we just looked at, this peer review template, and you're going to answer those questions. And so by September the 15th, let's just open that back up. So by September 15th, you will have 2 people from your Zoom team. You will have filled out 2 of these, one for 2 different people on your Zoom team. You're going to give your peer feedback, and then you're going to upload that for a grade for yourself. So they're going to get the feedback in addition to what you submit in the peer review template. So what's going to happen is you're going to, on this Sunday, the 8th, you're going to go right here to ABSOL Task for Review, and you are going to take your task 1, and you're going to go right here where it says ABSOL Task 1 for Peer and Instructor Review, and you're going to click on that. And then you're going to go right here and you're going to create a thread, and you're going to upload your ABSOL Task 1 right there where it said ABSOL Task for Review. You're going to upload that by creating a thread. And remember, before you upload it, it has to be in a Word document or a PDF. Those are the only 2 things you can upload in Blackboard. So that is what's going to go in there by this Sunday night. That's all that has to be in there by 9 o'clock this Sunday night. And then back to Tony, we know yours is not going to have your third part about having the meeting. because you're not going to be in school for the hurricane. So I'm going to stop right now and I'm going to look at the chat. Thank you. My PLC is scheduled for Thursday. Cancel. What's the minimum amount of team members I'm going to call? 3. Kareem, 3. If you can get 3, that'll be great. I think 3 is just perfectly fine. And then maybe as the process goes on, if you want to add some extra people, that'll be fine. But if you can get 3, that'll be great. Yes, Chelsea, 3 is fine. Chelsea, you're going to do 2 peer reviews. You're going to review 2 of your Zoom mates. So I think, let's just go back to the Zoom team for just a second. So if we lost Sean, I'm going to use team 3 as an example because that just leaves Amanda, Kareem, and Laura. So Laura is going to turn in task 1 this Sunday night. And then before the next week, Laura is going to give Kareem and Amanda a peer review. She'll give it to them, and then she'll submit it for her own. She'll submit that 2 times. She'll submit Kareem to Kareem. She'll give him his. She'll give Amanda hers. And then she'll upload Kareem and Amanda's to me for her to get a grade for. So that's just an easy example. Amanda will do 1 for Kareem, 1 for Laura. Amanda will give Kareem his feedback. She'll give Laura her feedback. And then Amanda will upload both of those for me to give Amanda a grade. And then Kareem will do 1 for Amanda. He'll do 1 for Laura. He'll give Laura her feedback. He'll give Amanda her feedback. And then he'll upload both of those for me to give him a grade. Yes, peer reviews are for task 1. Yes, you're not going to do those yet. You're going to do those next week. By this Sunday, though, you're only turning in task 1. Yes, keep on. Those are good questions. Just keep on asking those. So this Sunday, you're going to go right here back to this APSL task for review. You're going to say APSL task 1 for peer and instructor review. You're going to create a thread. You're going to upload either a PDF or a Word document because that's all you can upload. So that's what you're going to do by this Sunday night. And then next week, for 2 other people, you're going to have to give feedback on that using that peer review form. So what you'll do is you will look at their work, you will create that peer review form, you will upload it to them with a reply to their thread. So there's nothing in here right now, so I can't show you that. But once they've created a thread, then you'll reply to that thread, and that's how you're going to give them feedback. And then once you have given them feedback, and this is all over here right in a row for you, then you're going to take your peer review templates that you did for 2 of your peers, and you're going to put them right here in the completed peer review Dropbox, and that's where you'll get your grade for your peer reviews. And see, you'll put it right there where it says APSL Task 1 Peer Review. So that is laid right out there for you. It goes right in order. The first thing you do is you put in your task for review, and you go there, you upload, you review in there, you give them their feedback. Didn't mean to go there. You give them their feedback right there. It's in the discussion board. You give them their feedback for task 1, and then once you've given both of your colleagues feedback, then you will give me the papers that you gave them for feedback right there in your completed peer review Dropbox. Do not go any farther than that. Really and truly, you're not going to go any further than this by next Tuesday. Task for review is as far as you're going to go. And then if you want to go ahead and start working on those peer reviews, you'll still just put those, you'll still just put those in task for review for now until next Tuesday. So that's going to be as far as you're going to go for this week. So by this Sunday, September 8th, you're going to submit. I'm going to go back to week 2 for just a second because I do need to go over APA with you. We're going to go back to week 2 because we are in week 2. You're going to do the red work is due by Sunday. So that's task 1 draft due in Blackboard discussion. You're going to put it right here, APSL task for review. You'll see that says discussion. Absol Task 1 for review. You will create a thread to upload that, and it does need to be in a Word document or a PDF. September 8th is the review. That's where you put it for the review. You're going to create that thread. Anybody have any questions about that before I move on from that? Just let me make sure you don't have any questions. I don't see any more questions, maybe one. The peer reviews will not be due until September 15th. September 15th. Good question. This Sunday, the only thing you have to turn in is your Absol Task 1. All right, so let's talk just a little about APA materials. So all the tasks you have to complete for this class, including peer reviews, is going to be in APA materials. I'm going to go right here for just a second and show you again in Blackboard on the left, APA format materials. You'll see that right there. We're using the 6th edition of APA, and APA is nothing more than just a specialized common vocabulary or format used in academia. APA is considered best practice for formatting pages and using sources. Using APA increases the credibility of your work. You've been given so much information so far for this program, and APA is pivotal for all of your submissions. And I'm going to show you some great resources right now so that it'll help you be able to work as quickly and efficiently as possible in APA. The first source that I really should have probably gone to is the MELS handbook, the scale handbook right there, or your syllabus. We're just going to go to the syllabus because it'll be just a little easier to find in there because it's not as big as the MELS handbook. But this is copied straight from the MELS handbook in your syllabus. So that's two places you can find what we're getting ready to look at right now, which is a source in your handbook and in your syllabus. Oops, just skipped it. There we go. So right here, these are the references in the APA 6th edition manual, if you happen to have that. Purdue OWL and bibme.org are two great sites that will be available to you. So the links are there. This is in the syllabus. Those very same links are in the MELS Scale Handbook. And then you will also see those very same links right here in your APA format materials. The bibme.org is not in there, I don't think, but this Purdue OWL and bibme.org are all right there. Remember that your typeface and size are 12-point Times New Roman. Line and word spacing is double spacing between all lines of text, between paragraphs, headings, and subheadings. Provide 2 spaces of punctuation at the end of each sentence. So you'll put dot at the end of a sentence, period, space, space, and then start your next sentence. The first line of each paragraph has to have a consistent indentation of a ½ inch or 5 to 7 spaces. There's sample title pages for you. Headings are flush left boldface with no period after a heading. You're going to write in third-person passive voice. So again, you'll call yourself the candidate. Figures, any charts or anything you have in your work, you're going to call those and label those figures, and they must be formatted according to APA guidelines in section 504 to 5.30. Those figures can be single-spaced, and they should be presented horizontally and placed after the paragraph in which they are cited first. And I have some of this written down for you, so don't panic right now if you're trying to take notes. Figures, captions. The captions go below the figure. Reference lists are single-spaced within each entry, but double-spaced between entries. And you're going to use a hanging indent. Every site must be referenced. Don't include references that are not cited in your paper. Remember confidentiality in your artifacts. You might want to use some pseudonyms instead of actual names. So let's look at this Purdue OWL Writing Center right quick. So first of all, on Purdue OWL Writing Center, if you go to this citation style chart right here, this is my favorite thing, you'll see this chart. So you're going to look at this chart and you're going to see 3 different formatting languages here, MLA, APA, and CMOS. So what you're going to do is you're going to look at this center part under APA. So here is the general approach right here. And then it's going to tell you here are reference lists. So remember, you're looking at the middle column right here. And this will tell you if you're going to cite a book, this is what you do. If you're going to cite a single author, if you're going to cite 2 authors, you're looking in the middle column. This is APA. You're going to cite 3 to however many authors right there. And you can keep on scrolling down in there and you will find unknown author, 2 or more authors by the works by the same author, or more works by the same author in the same year. You know, what do you do when you end up with the same author in the same year and more than one work from that person at one time? And you can just keep on going down, and it just gives you just about every scenario possible. Like there's a magazine, there's a scholarly journal, there's a daily newspaper, or film review. This tells you just keep in that middle column because that is where your APA is. So also that's at the top over there, some kind of advertisement I have popped up. And so that's the top right there. And so you can look right here and you can see APA style. Open that up. There's an introduction to APA. Whoops. An overview and a workshop for APA, and APA formatting and style guides. And so you can find all kinds of things in there. So that is a great reference for you. And then you can also go to bibme.org, citation guide APA. Oh, I misspelled it. It always helps to spell it right. There we go. So here is your APA with BibMe. And again, it tells you every single thing right here. Look, how to cite a book, how to cite a magazine, how to cite a newspaper, how to cite a website. It gives you all those information right there at your fingertips. That makes that so much easier for you. We're going to go back to maybe, hopefully, our Blackboard right here. This will tell you a little about an annotated bibliography, which we're going to talk more about that next week. That is not for this week. And then here are some APA pointers for you. That is a document that we had from last time we did this class, and I think it might still have the date on there from that, but that's okay. It has not changed. And these will give you a lot of those pointers that I was going through so quickly a few minutes ago about 12-point Times New Roman, figure is 10-point, 2 spaces after punctuation, all that information that I was going through quickly that will and remind you of like writing in third person and things of that nature. So that is there for you as well, just jotting down some quick notes for you so that you can move from there and have it written how you want it written the first time, right the first time. So I know this has been a lot and just a lot to start off with, and it's not going to always be this much in one night. But remember that your Ubrin Chapter 3 will help you when working with your PLC decision making and being a leader in that decision making process. The first few weeks of this class is a lot, but it'll all start coming together for you. It probably already has started coming together for you. And you're going to sort of get into this routine and roll, and you're going to be like, oh yeah, I get it. And so it's going to just hang in there. You can do this, and you're already doing such a great job. And just the questions that you ask show that you really are getting it and you're understanding. And so that's just really, really good. I just encourage you to take time and think about your PLC process. If you have any questions, please call me or email me. I'm so happy to help you. We are here to help you, and your success is very important to us. You do have another coaching session this Thursday night. As soon as it's available, we'll share that link. I don't know if Dr. Stedman and I will be available since I think we're both getting ready to get hit by the hurricane, maybe. We'll see what happens with that. And I do want to check the chats. Wonder how much of our class we missed. I just saw recording pause, so I don't know how much we missed. Check your garden rib email. That is how we will contact you. And even when it starts feeling overwhelming, just start writing. Just sit down, start writing, and that gets you going. There's a thing called a 2-minute rule. If you do anything for 2 minutes, you'll keep on working on it longer than that. And it really does work. And so just implement that 2-minute rule. And even if you just work on it 5 minutes, and that's 5 minutes you didn't have done previously. So that's good. As soon as I get this recording uploaded, and I hope it wasn't on pause for too awfully long, I will get that out to you. Remember, you do have another coaching class this Thursday. Does anybody have anything else before we go? Everybody's good? Okay, feel good? Please reach out to me if I can answer any questions. I'm happy to. Thank you again for choosing Gardner Webb. It is our pleasure to work with you and experience this journey with you. We're so glad to have you. Good luck to all of you who are in the path of the hurricane, and have a great night. Call me if I can help you.